Hello everyone, welcome back to another video where today we're going to be talking a little bit about Peter Capaldi in the 60th and why he's actually recently confirmed that he will not be involved in the 60th anniversary celebrations for Doctor Who. This is coming from SFX magazine and it has been relayed through Radio Times. But before we get into it, if you like these news updates on all things Doctor Who, feel free to subscribe. We're about 30 subscribers away from 15,600 and if we could get there it'd be greatly appreciated. Also, if you want to follow me on Twitter, you can also feel free. The link to that will be in the description below. But with that said, let's get into the news. I apologise in advance for the advertisements on the Radio Times, but there's not much that can be done about that. But Peter Capaldi rules out Doctor Who 60th. I'd rather leave it as it is. The actor warned against having too many Doctors in one episode. This is by David Craig. Peter Capaldi has dismissed rumours that he could return as the Doctor in the upcoming 60th anniversary, telling fans he's happy with the way he departed the role. Rumours and speculation have been rampant around the celebrations, written by returning showrunner Russell T Davies, which are confirmed to feature David Tennant and Catherine Tate as the 10th Doctor and Donna Noble respectively. Some have wondered whether the other incarnations of the Doctor could also appear to mark the occasion, but the latest comments from Peter Capaldi appear to rule out the 12th. In an interview with SFX magazine, he expressed concern that cramming too many Doctors into a single episode would lead to a few, if any, getting the screen time that fans would want. He says, it's very hard to imagine how you'd get a decent crack of the whip when there's 14 of us, you know? So I'd rather leave it as it is, because I love my time on Doctor Who and I love doing it, he said. I don't want to be Doctor Who's assistant, he laughed. It used to drive me insane on Doctor Who not being able to talk about things like, it's like who cares, but then I get into trouble. Capaldi went on to discuss the responsibility of playing the Doctor and the way in which changes public perception of you. In a way, when you're Doctor Who, you sort of become another person, he explained, because you sort of embody that when you're in public, so you have to be able to turn that on. But it's not necessarily natural to all of us. That's really interesting, you know, because that's something that we've sort of heard, you know, from Doctors dating back all the way to Tom Baker. You know, he would purposely make an effort, you know, not to smoke or to drink when he was in public in order to not ruin the illusion for any children who might see him. And that must be really difficult to maintain, you know, to maintain that public image of the Doctor. I will say, I never got the impression that Capaldi struggled with that. He always seemed very natural at it. He always, to me, like, he's one of my favourite Doctor actors in terms of just embodying that character and the spirit of that character. So he never really, it always came across as quite natural to me, but I imagine, you know, it's quite a change of image for him, if you think about it, going from things like Doctor Who, which is very family-orientated, to things like, I guess, you know, The Thick of It, which is a much more adult-based, you know, lots of swearing, lots of comedy and that sort of thing. So yeah, I can imagine that it would be quite a difficult thing to maintain if you're not used to it. It's true, I've talked to others about it. You don't want to disappoint people. You really don't. Prior to the 60th anniversary celebrations, we have the BBC's centenary coming up this month, which will be the final episode featuring Jodie Whittaker's 13th Doctor. It's going to be emotional. It'd be nice if someone reminded the BBC about that. Capaldi will soon be in the Prime Video thriller The Devil's Hour, which is scheduled for release on Friday the 28th of October, just in time for Halloween. That looks really interesting actually, because in that show, I believe he plays like a person who either is a time traveller or thinks he's a time traveller. And a lot of the dialogue, if you've seen the trailer for it, obviously I can't play it because of copyright reasons. But if you have seen that, he kind of, a lot of the dialogue sounds very similar to what he would sound like in Doctor Who, so that's very fun. And then obviously we've got the front cover of SX with Doctor Who headlining it. And I guess Devil's Hour is also here as well. So big day for the Doctor Who world and Doctor Who actors in SFX. Funnily enough as well, we also had it confirmed fairly recently, I think, that House of the Dragon, which is Matt Smith's final episode of the Game of Thrones prequel, will also air on the 23rd of October, same day as the centenary, and then the Devil's Hour, which is Peter Capaldi's new thing, airs a couple of days after that. So it's going to be a pretty packed time for Doctor Who actors across the spectrum. But yeah, just to give my brief thoughts about the idea of Peter Capaldi returning, or I guess not returning in this case. I know I've sort of said before that like actors can lie and, you know, certain things can be said and things can change, you know, throughout time and stuff. This is one of those cases, though, where I think he's being genuine. I don't think he will come back, and that hurts me to say, because I love him in the part. I said earlier, he really embodies the character for me. He's not my favourite Doctor, but like in terms of embodying the character, I think Peter Capaldi did a phenomenal job, and I would love to see him back, but in this case, it's not looking likely. Now, as I said, with some cases, I can kind of sort of see them as light lying. For example, Matt Smith's answers have always been really like vague, like, oh, I might be too old for it now, you know? And that kind of leaves you open to speculation somewhat in terms of him coming back, like, ooh, that could just, you know, be him playing coy or, you know, stuff like that. With this, it is a pretty direct answer, and it's not actually unheard of. We've heard a couple of times before from Peter Capaldi that he's kind of not a big fan of multi-Doctor stories, so this isn't an unprecedented comment from him. So I can't say I'm completely surprised. Honestly, I always kind of factored Capaldi into a similar sort of territory as I did Chris Eccleston, where their returns are less likely. Obviously, I think Christopher Eccleston is less likely for a variety of reasons, which most of us will be aware of, but I've always kind of put Peter Capaldi in a similar camp. I think he was always very clear that, like, once he was done, that was going to be it. Which is a shame, but, you know, I guess we'll have to wait and see who else might appear in the 60th. But let me know in the comments below what you think about this. Would you have liked to have seen Peter Capaldi in the 60th? Do you think he's maybe playing coy? I don't in this case. And yeah, give me thoughts on what he said. Do you think that multi-Doctors can be two stuff? I do get what he's saying, right? Because I think a 3-Doctor team-up is a good balance. Obviously, you got the 3 Doctors original story with Hartnell, Troughton and Pertwee. Obviously, most of that is Troughton and Pertwee due to Hartnell being unwell at the time. And then with, obviously, the Day of the Doctor, I think that was a good balance with 11, 10, and John Hurt's War Doctor. But then when you get to things like the 5 Doctors, I think a lot of that is less about them meeting and more about them just trying to find, you know, their way to Rassilon's tomb. And personally, for me, I've always kind of preferred it in the multi-Doctors where they are interacting, and you don't get as much of that with if you've got, you know, more Doctors, more things to balance. So maybe that's what he's thinking when he says this. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. Comment down below your thoughts. Like if you're new, subscribe if you enjoyed, and I will see you later.